Okay, all right. We're actually live here. Let's see this. Let me rearrange this. Okay. Man, I am struggling with the YouTube Live. I'll tell you what, I scheduled it. I had a nice little screenshot set aside. I think people could get notified, and then went into YouTube and it's not easy to just launch it for some reason. So it's probably on me. Sure, I don't know what I'm doing. We'll figure this out. All right. I'll tell you what, as I often say, that no plan survives contact with the enemy. Today's Thursday. Yesterday was Wednesday. Yesterday started. This is just a shout out to real life at 3:30 in the morning when our 2.5-year-old little girl Lane just started screaming in pain. Went in, dealt with her. She was not well, dealt with her all day long, and then last night ended at the emergency room with her, getting IVs and just crazy stuff. So life happens, right? So here we are. We're all in this together. All right. So with that being said, I'm not going to dilly-dally because she's in the other room. I'm going to try to get back to her as quick as I can because that's important. So here we go. All right. First one from this for the Ask Me Anything for February 22nd, 2024. Phil T. One of the things that is said throughout Linchpin is about getting ferociously fit, quote unquote. I realize that may be different for each person, but if you were to generalize, what does that mean and what does it look like? So, ferociously fit, that's just kind of something fun that I say, and what I mean by that is chasing actual real fitness like we do at Linchpin. We don't bias things. You are fitter than you realize if you don't avoid things, if you embrace things that you don't like, if you try to expand the margins of your experience, if you do short, medium, and long, light, moderate, and heavy, you don't avoid strict work, you don't avoid long run days, you don't avoid sprints, you don't avoid classic heavy days, you don't avoid heavy days at high heart rate, you don't avoid things. You become ready for anything, which is what you're supposed to be. But so many people are not because they have this little wheelhouse of things that they like and they avoid things that they're not good at. And that is holes in your fitness. And if you have the discipline and you're part of a community to avoid that nonsense and actually chase and pursue a strength and conditioning program that doesn't care what you like to do, doesn't care what you want to do, it gives you what you need to do. And you have the determination and motivation and support of a community to do those things, you will be ferociously fit. And that's what we mean. And it doesn't take, you don't have to spend all day in the gym to do it. Okay, next one from Dan P. I remember last year, my first open season with Linchpin. How do you feel about quote unquote, and how you feel about training for the open? Also about how the leaderboard, chasing the leaderboard in the open, and potentially throwing off your regularly scheduled training to move your fitness forward, etc., etc. But let's say that we do want to treat the open workouts like a solid testing day. A few times a year, it's fun to do tests and try to max out, see without throwing off your overall fitness. How would you maximize your training through the week to be ready for the test? I've been a garage gym athlete for so long. I'm not sure I have a good idea in my head of what a week of training leading up to a solid testing day would be like. So I would say that, Dan, if you are modulating your intensity and understanding training versus testing, and I know that you are, and you look at your week and you plan out, this is a low intensity day, this is a moderate intensity day, this day I'm getting after it. I'm going to go for broke. This is my high intensity day. I'm going to see what I've got, whether it's a heavy day or a mixed modality day. That's your testing. And if you're trying to set yourself up for success, you're going to make sure that you're not burning it down the day before, 2 days before, 3 days before, that you're going into it feeling good mentally and physically. And so the only challenging thing about the open is they're just unknown, right? They're unknown. Maybe week one of the open is going to have a ton of thrusters, or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll have a bunch of overhead, or maybe it won't. Maybe it'll have a heavy pull from the ground, or maybe it won't. And so the day before, she can come on in. Is she doing bad? Here, honey. This is live TV. Come here, honey. Oh, I just told everybody that you're not feeling so good. You see yourself there? What do you think? Can you wave? Having a day at home? Do you want to hang out here on screen with Daddy? Or do you want to go in the other room with Mommy and watch a little TV? Do you want to stay here? Okay, we'll try to do the questions quick. Okay. You don't know what it's going to be. And so you might actually modulate your intensity well. And guess what? You went below parallel a bunch the day before, and the open has a bunch of below parallel, and now you're not set up for success. And so it's really tough to do when it's an unknown test. That's the difference between if you're going up for a powerlifting meet on a certain day, you know what the lifts are, and you can ramp down appropriately for those lifts. If you've got a 5K that you're going to run, you know that it's a 5K. When it's like, hey, I want you to maintain your training for the week, and on this particular day, I'm going to throw something at you, and you don't know what it is, there's literally no way to tell if you rested appropriately or not. So that's a bit of a challenge. Oh, did you find your little dinosaur? There you go, your little dinosaur. So for anyone listening audio-wise, once I post this as a podcast, what you're not seeing is I've got my daughter in my arms here because she's having herself a rough little day. Let's see. But long story short, Dan, I would modulate your intensity and make sure you're walking into the actual day that you want to perform well, feeling good. Dave D, 2 questions. I know a little cheeky. First, following up on today's and other accessory work, how do you approach the Burgener warm-up with limited shoulder mobility? I've got 2 beat-up shoulders from years of rugby, and no matter what I do, it doesn't get much better. He knows that I have tight shoulders, and what do I do? Good question. And for me, tight shoulders is my life, and the Burgener warm-up some days is okay, that wide grip, and some days it's not, and I just have to be honest with myself. But a lot of days, that wider grip I can do. Now, still getting below parallel with my shoulders in a overhead position like that, still challenging, even with an empty barbell. But if I take my time and warm up, I can usually do it. But on some days, my shoulders just aren't feeling it, and I allow myself to be okay with that, and I may have to modify the Burgener warm-up on those particular days. But generally speaking, if I'm kind of staying on top of it, and I'm staying on top of some shoulder pass-throughs and things like that, and bar hangs, I can usually pull off a Burgener warm-up even with my tight shoulders. And second, this past week, Carl Steadman, who's a legend over in Europe, has announced that he's standing down as the UK country manager. I've heard him talk on other podcasts about his introduction to CrossFit, and it was yourself that went to the UK and asked him to be on staff. That's true. I also noticed he's a follower of the daily workouts on Linchpin. Do you have any good stories of your time with Carl? Or could you maybe do a VNR episode with him about what he did as country manager? So, yeah, Carl was and still is a good dude. I got a lot of good memories with Carl. I'm not sure why he's stepping down, but hopefully it works out well for him. And I'll just give you a quick story about Carl. I remember doing Helen with him. I can't remember where it was. I want to say it was in Belgium, but that could be wrong. And he took off on a pace in the first 400-meter run.
This is my blue pencil right there.
You want the blue pencil? You want this?
Yeah.
Do you want to color on this stuff right here?
Yeah.
He took off on a pace in the first 400-meter run that I giggled inside and was like, good luck with that, newbie. You're going to crash and burn. That's way too fast. Ha, ha, ha. I'm going to beat you. And he never slowed down. He kept that pace in round 2, and he kept that pace in round 3, and he absolutely destroyed me on Helen. Okay, let's see. Joshua asks 2 questions. With the recent programmed weighted pull-ups, what is your preferred equipment, vest or belt, and are there other good options? Either one will do, as long as you can move some load. Personally, I like a belt option that I can... Oh, do you want to go see Mommy? Here, we'll be right back. Hold on, I'm going to pass her over to Mommy. Want to have a little Mommy time? You want to be here with me? You want to be here? Okay, you sure? Do you want to play on the floor? Or do you want me to hold you? Want me to hold you? Okay. Well, this is a podcast unlike I've ever done before. Let's see. So I prefer the belt method for weighted pull-ups. Easy to take on and off, and I can change it out pretty well, whereas with the vest, you usually set to one vest unless you have an adjustable vest, and those aren't easy to change. And number 2, slightly kidding, but with the recent discussion on deadlifts, what is your opinion on the Jefferson deadlift? Well, I mean, no reason to be slightly kidding. The Jefferson Deadlift, even though we've never programmed it, as I always say, if you're familiar with it, you're always authorized to modify things. For example, if something says deadlift, you can do touch and go, you could do dead stop, you could do a deficit deadlift. The ball is in your court. You're all deadlifting. It's all great. The Jefferson deadlift has kind of a split stance. The bar is actually between your legs. It's an interesting lift. You don't see it too frequently, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have a lot of value. And with the Jefferson deadlift, you're going to be fighting to resist rotation far more than you would in a regular deadlift. And that in and of itself has value. So the Jefferson deadlift is good. Now look at this. We're going to look at Daddy's phone because there's some questions on the phone. Okay, ready? So let's see. Oh, you still got your little dinosaur? First question from Daddy's getting quite a workout in his right arm from holding you. Is there much value, this is from Eric M. Is there much value in doing box jumps higher than 30 inches, assuming what I believe is the standard box for most people? So is there value in doing higher than 30 inches? It just depends upon the person. For me, at 5'8", probably not. And it also depends upon the hops that you've got. I'm not known for my hops. And so if you are somebody that is quite springy, what's 30 inches to me might be 36 inches to you, might be 40 inches. It depends upon if it's appropriately challenging for you or not. So a lot of times if we have a 30-inch box jump in a workout, it's not that everybody needs to benefit from exactly the same height box. It's the general concept, which the general concept is if a lot of days that have a moderate volume of box jumps and it's a mixed modality workout for time, maybe it's a 24-inch box jump for men and a 20-inch box jump for women, and that height, generally speaking, is something that most people can move through at a decent pace, even when fatigue sets in, and it's more of a metabolic conditioning component. Then generally speaking, if we have a higher height box jump compared to the norm, then that would typically be with a lower volume of repetitions and maybe be not so much as a 4-time workout, though not always, and you're going to have more of an explosive component to that. So it's just the training stimulus, and there are general things assigned with that, be it number of repetitions and height, that work for most people under most circumstances most of the time. But if you understand the general concept, maybe a 30-inch box jump is great for you. Maybe it actually should be a little bit higher, or maybe it should be a little bit lower. So understanding the training concept and the stimulus is probably more important than the exact height of the box jump. Let's see. And then a follow-up question of box jumps from Mike M. At some point, do higher box jump measure hip flexibility more than explosive power? It would just depend upon if you're landing in a deep squat, then you're certainly going to have some hip flexibility in there. But at a certain point, regardless of how flexible you are, if the box is high enough, you're going to have some elevation to get up on it. So it's probably not an either or. It's a little bit of both. And again, choosing the right box height linked into Eric's question to make sure that for you and your height and your jumping capacity, that you're preserving the stimulus. What do you think? Your hair looks a little crazy, doesn't it? Does it look crazy? Yeah. How are you feeling? I tell everybody how you're feeling. Are you feeling good or are you feeling bad? Not in a big talking mood? A little bad? Oh, okay. Daddy's arm is lit up, I'll tell you that. All right, let's see. From Alexander W. Hey, Pat, when modulating intensity and adjusting stuff to happening in life, how do you suggest staying honest with yourself and not shortchanging the workouts on heavy days too? All right, so Alex is in a busy point in life, and the heavy days are getting shortchanged, and those are affecting his heavy day numbers. That's a tough one because without a doubt, to do a heavy day right, there's just no way around it, right? I can't lie to you. It does take time. And so you're going to do a heavy day, a 5x5, an hour of the gym is your friend. If you're in a phase in life where you have certain responsibilities, things have popped up that you don't get that time, you can either try to say like, hey, am I going to have one day this week? Maybe it's not the day that it was scheduled, but do I have one day that I think I can get somewhere for an hour? Okay, I'm going to rearrange my schedule, and that's going to be the day that I do the heavy day. that'd be great if you can pull that off. If you can't pull that off, well, then truth be told, you're going to have your heavy days are going to be shortchanged, and that's going to affect your top end lifts. The limited equipment option is a fantastic way to still get really strong. It doesn't take quite as much time to warm up or execute, and you still will get plenty strong doing mixed modality days, but there is nothing quite like being able to respect the heavy day and the time and dedication to give to it. So again, try to see if you can find one. Do you want to go see mommy? You sure? Do you want to stay here? Do you want to play on the floor? Do you want to help me read a question? Let's see. So I would say limited equipment option is your friend, and try to rearrange your schedule to have one day a week where you can make it happen. Let's see. Colin J. Sorry if this has been asked before, but are we done with the Linchpin test? I enjoyed doing them last year and love to see a return. We probably, I don't know if we'll do all the Linchpin tests again, the one a month like we did until we went through all of them. We're definitely going to do Linchpin test 13 this year, no doubt about it. And I have one or two unique challenges I plan on throwing out, but that'll probably happen after the Open. So for anybody who's doing the Open, it just won't conflict with that. And then once everybody's not Open crazy anymore, we'll do them and have a good time. But I've got some stuff in my head. Jillian W. Does the program include 1 rep maxes, 3 rep maxes, etc.? Yes, it does. 1s, 2s, 3s, 5s, 8s, 10s. You'll get all that good stuff in there. How do you think you look? Pretty? Your tummy hurts? Oh, tummy hurts a little bit. Okay. I'm just gonna see if she can hear the podcast, okay? I'll be right back. I'll be right back. Oh, poor little girl is having a tough day. There's no way around it. So I'm gonna try to keep these going and get back in there. From Claudette asking for a friend. Let's say you're trying to introduce CrossFit to somebody. They have zero fitness background. Better to start with the no equipment and scale and build confidence, or sprinkle in a limited equipment, etc., etc. Some people can find dumbbells and barbells intimidating. True. I would say no matter what option you choose, scaling is the key, because who's kidding? Who those no equipment options, those can pack one heck of a punch as well. And so it doesn't matter what you're doing, scale appropriately. Joyce A. recently posted in comments about my fear of box jumps. Is there a movement you've gotten into your head? How do you overcome the hesitation, etc., etc.? For the box jumps, what I would recommend, I've got soft boxes. If you have soft boxes, that's fantastic. If not, what I would recommend you do is choose a height that's super low, that you have no fear about. Go ahead and nail that height over and over again until you develop confidence there, and then slowly and gradually, incrementally build it up, and you'll be good to go. So that's going to be a quick one for today. Going to get back in the other room, help my wife and my daughter. Thanks, everybody, and we will talk later.